Good morning. Welcome in. Whether you are a woman in business, you are leading in your home, whatever that looks like, you're working a 9 to 5, I welcome you into this Bible study this morning. So, good morning to each and every one of you. Today we are going to be in Genesis 20 and 21. We are at the point where Hagar is back in the wilderness, but she didn't run this time. Okay, she was sent. And that's going to be what we're focusing on. So I'm going to dive into that today. I'll do my opener here in a little bit. I just want to welcome every single one of you in. Good morning. Good morning, John. Good to see you back on this live. I look so forward to seeing all of you each and every morning. It just makes my heart so happy that we built this little community. So welcome. If you are new here, I invite you to stay. We are just getting started in our study, and it is one that I'm looking forward to today. I'm really looking forward to. Yesterday's was great, but I love when I have the mornings where, you guys are my priority and I get to just stay on here for however long is needed. So, good morning. Come on in. I encourage you to stay for this study. We are going to be in Genesis 20 and 21 today. If you are new to this study and you are getting settled in, I invite you to comment an emoji or anything like that. Say that you're new. I have a gift for you, and I'll explain that here in a little bit. But if this is your first time being here, welcome. I do these studies Monday through Friday at 9 Central, so it is one where you guys are just getting the beginning of it. So we'll get started here shortly, but where we are at is this place in Genesis 20 and 21, and I'm curious, for those of you guys that are popping in, are you familiar with this story in Genesis? Now, I know that some of us have been in our faith for a while, and there have been so many parts of the Bible that I haven't gone deeper into, and I'm curious if this is one for you. I know that a lot of times some people tend to kind of skip around in the Bible, which is totally fine. And so I'm just curious if this is one that you guys are pretty familiar with, or if this is also new to you. And so either way, I'm praying that what we study today is either a refresher for you, or you see it in a different lens than maybe what you did before. So good morning to every single one that is popping in. I am ready to get started here in this study because I'm really looking forward to it. And so where we're at in Genesis 20 and 21 is the part where Hagar is back in the wilderness. So this time she didn't run. She was sent. And so when the water runs out and she walks away from her son because she cannot bear to watch him perish. And so God shows up and does something that shows us so much about how provision actually works, because he could have very easily sent water from heaven, but he doesn't. He opens up her eyes to a well that was already in the ground. So that's where we're going today. So I encourage you guys to stay with me. Good morning to every single one of you. If you are new to this live, I have a gift for you. And so I want to give you a shout out, of course. You can put it in the comments, an emoji, I'm new, whatever that looks like for you. It's a series of about 44 questions that you can ask yourself in these scenarios where maybe you're facing a tough decision. And the goal of it is to help you reorient your mind back to what God, like the perspective of focusing on God, really getting down to the root of the question. And just questions where sometimes maybe you feel like, I don't know which direction to go. These cover faith, business. They're written for mothers. Because I work with faith-driven female entrepreneurs, but this applies to anybody. And so that is my gift to you. So if you guys want it, you can put, again, an emoji, you can comment, I'm new, whatever that looks like. I will tell you, please check into your DMs after this after this live. I've sent it to those of you guys that have been on previous lives. Just make sure you check, because sometimes if you have a private page or you've never received a message from me, sometimes it doesn't automatically show up. You guys are also free to message me, and I can send that to you as well. But I just want to make sure I get it to you. Some of you guys still have them sitting in your DMs, and I just want to remind you to check that there. So good morning to every single one of you. If you are new to this live, I'm going to give you a recap of how these work. You'll notice in the title of the Bible study that it's faith and business. And so what that means is I am a business owner. I've been running my business for over 8 years. I work with faith-driven female entrepreneurs, and I really saw a gap before I fully stepped into this space of coaching women, a gap in that really there weren't a lot of spaces that glorified God in business. It's like you had your faith over here and your business over there, but they tended not to mix. Or most women felt like they couldn't be bold in their faith. And I was like, that's not what I believe. I believe that our businesses were given to us as a gift from God. So why would we not glorify Him? We are running our business for God. You could kind of say co-laboring in a sense. But I want to give Him all the glory, right? I want to make sure that I'm running a business that is aligned with what Scripture has. And in order to do that, I have to understand what Scripture says. So these Bible studies daily, I do them Monday through Friday. And I'm looking at them through a lens of, okay, how do we run a business in the way that God actually intends for us to? That doesn't get so mixed up with things of this age, things of the world, different mentalities like hustle, self-reliance. I could go on and on about so many of these things, but just making sure that we glorify Him. So that's what these studies are. It is one where I go deep into Scripture. I love diving into maybe things that other studies are afraid to talk about, things that maybe some miss, whatever that is. I just go in as much depth as I can. And so, sorry, give me 1 second. I had to message my husband. So it is one where we are going deeper into Scripture each and every day. And so that's what I invite you in. And so let's see. All right. So we're going to get started here in just a second. But good morning. If you are new here, this is your first time in this Bible study, just know that this is a safe space for you to ask questions. I will say that I don't always respond to every single comment as it comes in. That's because we're studying the Word, and I want to make sure that I don't keep getting sidetracked. Sometimes it can be really easy for that to happen, but please still ask questions. I am moderating the chat, so I can tell when maybe people are trying to, just be annoying. But it is one where I invite in the questions. I invite in your own perspectives, your own discernment. We all go through periods where I believe that the Holy Spirit highlights so many different things for us as we go through our walks. And so, yeah, as a human, Fave, I don't know where you're going with this question. But if it is a genuine question, I believe, let's see, what is a... Okay, good. If it's a genuine question, I welcome it in. I have been a believer all my life. And so I feel like that's a very complex question to ask why I believe. I think it's because I've seen so many instances that make me feel like, how can I not believe in Him? He's shown up in so many different areas of my life. He's just been there for me in more ways. I don't know that I can fully answer that question in a way that honors all that God has done for me, but I believe in him because he's my father, right? He has shown up time and time again. And I believe what the Bible has in its entirety for us, I believe that it is true. That is the truth. And so, yeah, that's a complex question to answer. That's probably the best I can do this morning. But yeah, as we get started, I welcome each and every one of you guys in. If you are new here, I'll just recap before we get started. It is one where if you are new to the space, I want to gift you something. I created this guide that has about 40 questions that help you through tough decisions. And so it's obviously just available. It's my gift to you guys for being on this live for the first time. But it's one that I found as a wife, as a mother, as an entrepreneur. These were questions that I had to kind of step back and look at. Is the thought that I have in my mind actually genuine, or how can I reframe that thought to be in more alignment with God? So if that is something that you guys want, it is something that you can drop an emoji. You can say, I'm new here, whatever that looks like. I will send you a DM after this live. So make sure you check your messages, but we're going to get started here. And so I didn't start believing because of my own struggles. I was so blessed to have a family who showed me the heart of Jesus, to learn the Bible, to go to church. But my struggles give me more dependency, shows me more of the heart of God. But I don't need to struggle in order to meet him. He's with me at every point in time. So, but those are valid questions. So, again, as you guys are coming in the comments, or coming in, I don't read every single comment out loud or answer it right away, but I promise I will get back to it, so that we can stay focused on the word. But please ask them. Please ask. If they are genuine, I will come back to it. But share your discernment, your commentary, things that you've seen highlighted in scripture that maybe I missed, maybe I didn't include. But that's where we're going to be at. We are in the section of Genesis 20 and 21. So I recap all of these. If you have missed any of the studies previously, we go through it. We're reading Genesis all the way to Revelation. And there are parts where I may skim through and maybe not cover as in depth, because I want the focus to be more on the application of what we're talking about. And so that'll happen a little bit as we're talking about certain parts of scripture. It potentially will happen today in Genesis. I think that 20 is one that we're going to kind of focus more on the application, and we are going to go deeper into it. I'm excited about today. So Hagar is back in the wilderness, right? She is there this time because she was sent, not because she ran like last time. I will say, if you guys have missed any of the previous studies, I do a recap of all of them. They're in a vault. You guys can go to the link in my bio and sign up for those, and I send you all of the replays. It is something that I send you the replays, a recap, and the link again. But I download each and every one of these. I try to do it every single day. Sometimes they take so long to download from TikTok that I just get sidetracked in my day, and I'm like, oh, it's the end of the day. I need to upload that in the morning. So I'm usually not super far behind. They're up there. So if you guys want that, the link is in my bio. But where we're at in Genesis, I'm going to get started now. So good morning to every single one of you that is in this live. Welcome if you are new here. I see so many of you saying that you're new, and that makes me so excited. I can't wait to send you guys the gift. If you guys want that and you're just now joining, make sure that you either comment, yes, I'm new, or you can put an emoji in the comments and I'll make sure to get you that gift, those 40 questions. This mic is a Rode mic. It's a Rode podcast mic. I love it. It's very easy to use. It was not easy to set up because you have to plug it into, I don't even remember what it's called, a little adapter thing. And then you have to get headphones for it. It was a process, but I got it figured out and I love it. It's so much better than the snowball mic is what I think I had. But yeah, to answer your question. So, oh, an inverter. Yes. Thank you. I could not remember what it was called. I usually go live. So I go live every Monday through Friday at 9 Central. And I usually go live for about an hour, hour and a half. The only day that I don't go live fully for a whole hour is because I have my prayer calls immediately after. So you guys are all welcome to that. I have all of this stuff in my link tree in my bio. I encourage you to explore it. To me, this is the community that we're building together. And I want you guys to be a part of it so I can pray over you, so we can study scripture, so we can study business, and I can help you with anything, right? Like that's the beautiful community that we're building here. So apologies if I miss anything, any of these comments. I will try to go back to them, but that's what we do. So good morning to each and every one of you. So in Genesis 20, I am officially going to get started. I won't get sidetracked again. Yes, please connect. Yes, thank you, Erica, for the plug. I love going and supporting every single one of you. If you have a business, can you shout that out in the comments as well? Or if you are, trying to grow your social media, whatever that looks like for you. I know some of you are just coming to study the Bible, and that's beautiful. But I always want to make sure I support you guys as well. So Hagar is back in the wilderness. Okay. Like I said, she didn't run. This time she was sent. And that distinction is really important. That's why I keep reiterating it. But as she's there, when the water runs out, she walks away from her son Ishmael, right? At this moment, for her, it's one where she has to step away because she cannot watch him perish. Perish is the word I will use. Then God shows up and does something that shows us so much about how provision actually works. God in this moment could have very easily, just with a wave of his hand or by the sound of his voice, sent water from heaven, but he doesn't. What he does in this moment is opens up her eyes to a well that was already in the ground. So stay with us this morning. We're going to get started. I read from a New King James Version of the Bible. It is one where I love it. It's a Bible study, John MacArthur. Love it. So when I do my study, when I'm studying for these, I'm reading from multiple different Bibles. I have my Life Application Bible, which I love. I have just different versions of the Bible. I have this awesome maps and timelines guide that you guys will see me reading from occasionally. So when I study, I'm doing it hermeneutically, just as much as I can. But I invite you guys in, especially because as I do it hermeneutically, it's within. So if you guys aren't familiar, hermeneutics is reading from the original text to maintain as much accuracy as possible. So it does Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. I think it's Koine Greek. Because sometimes with the different translations, if you guys aren't familiar with it, as we translate it, sometimes it loses that original meaning. So you'll hear me reference in the original Hebrew or Greek. Most of the Old Testament is Hebrew. But you'll hear me reference different parts of it. So I encourage you guys to pay attention to something very specific in this passage today, though. Okay, so you heard me just speak about the fact that God opened Hagar's eyes to a well. Okay, the well was already there before Hagar even sat down, okay, before the water ran out. And also before she put her son under this bush and walked away, okay? So this is where we're going to be going with it. God had already placed it in the ground that she was walking on. The thing about it is that she couldn't see it, okay? God didn't create the provision in response to her crisis. It was already there. And he just had to open her eyes, or she had to open her eyes. He opened her eyes, but she had to be willing to see it. And so much of this it matters to a lot of us that are in hard seasons, and we're praying for God to make something. We're praying, God, please just send me something. Build something new, right? I have prayed that. But the thing that the text is showing us or asking us, I believe, is a different question entirely. So to me, it's more of a question along the lines of, what if it's already there and our eyes just aren't opened yet? To me, that is not a small distinction. And that is the difference between a God who reacts in your emergency and a God who prepares the answer before you even enter into the situation. Okay, so Genesis 21 is showing us that we have a God that reacts, or a God who prepares our answer before we've already stepped in. And if you guys have been following along, you know I love to talk about this fact in Genesis chapter 8, verse 1, where God remembers Noah in the storm. Right? God is moving with intention. He's already making a way for us. He's already moving on our behalf in a way that he knows all the needs that we have, right? He knows everything that we are going to face, and he moves forward. And we serve a good God, right? God is so good. So that's where we're at today. And I just want to be really specific about what that means about God's heart towards you in that moment. And then I'll get to the recap, okay? So God is not withholding the provision until you earn your way out of fear. Yes, God knew us when we were in our mother's womb, right? He knows everything that we're going to need. He's known us always, even before we were here. He knew that the world needed one of us. So yeah, God is not, he's not withholding this provision. I think sometimes we feel like that, like, God, please, just, can you? That's not what he's doing. He's not saying, okay, I'll withhold it until you're not afraid anymore. He's also not waiting for you to pull yourself together before he shows you what he's placed. Okay, so the well is already in the ground. Okay, he put it there before we arrived, before Hagar arrived, right? So the question was, I don't think it was ever that he wasn't going to provide. The question is whether our eyes are open enough to see what's already there. So let's get started, okay? I just want to reorient your mind, or set your heart posture to what God is doing in this moment. So yesterday we were in Genesis 19 and we spoke about Lot's wife. And Erica so graciously gave us a little bit of a recap. So thank you, Erica. And I'm so happy it resonated with so many of you, because it's so relatable. I think a lot of times we see Lot's wife as one where it's like, man, that was a silly decision. But it is so relatable. So we moved through the full context of Sodom and Gomorrah, and I'm just going to recap that for you guys that are new here. So there was a lot of corruption that was embedded in the city, and there were angels that were sent from God to go to Lot, okay? And they were there with a sense of urgency. They were like, let's go, Lot. They stayed there for a moment, of course, but they had to impart in him that this is urgent. We need to move forward, okay? The word in Hebrew that was used essentially is that the angels physically seized Lot and his family because he hesitated, even with this judgment coming. So they were like, I know that you're hesitating. You might be scared. You might want to gather up people, but we need you to move. So we're just going to move you. The beautiful part about this, just backtracking a little bit more, is that Lot's uncle, Abraham, was face to face with God in this moment. God was there with these two other angels talking to Abraham, telling him, this is the promise, this is what's going to be. It's finally happening, Abraham, right? And then he was renamed from Abram to Abraham. Then at this point, God speaks to Abraham and says, I'm going to go to Sodom and Gomorrah, and I'm going to destroy the city. The city is so wicked and so corrupt. And Abraham intercedes on behalf of the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and says, Father, like, Lord, however he addresses him, right? He says, will you please spare? Like, if there's 50 people there, will you spare them? And God says, yes. Then Abraham's like, okay, well, what about 45 people? If there's 45 people, will you spare them? God says, yes. Then, Lot continues to go down and he goes, if there's 30, if there's 25, if there's 20, finally he gets down to 10. And God says, yes. The crazy part about it is that in this city, it was so corrupt that there weren't even 10 people, right? There weren't even 10 people in that space that were worth, everybody's worthy of being saved, so I shouldn't say that. That had that hadn't been so corrupt. Okay? Erica, yeah. He wanted more time. He was pleading. He's like, please, Father, please. And the beautiful part about that is it shows us too that there's nothing that we can't come to the Father about. It also shows me that prayer has such significance, that we can intercede on behalf of others. But just coming to the Father with childlike faith and saying in that moment, God, I'm going to ask you in all boldness, a prayer that maybe you won't answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. And what God does in that moment is shows us that he hears us. He may not honor it in the way that we want, but he hears us. So the angels are there. Lot is Abraham's nephew. Okay, so I think that's another factor of why he's saying, please spare these people. Like, he has people there that he loves. And the angels go and they protect Lot. As the angels arrive in this city, they go to Lot's house directly. They were on mission. They were there specifically to get Lot. And in this moment, it was one where the people in the city come to him. So men come to Lot's house, are knocking on the doors, trying to have their way with these angels, right? They were a corrupt city. There's just so many sinful, awful things going on. And the fact that that's the first thing they want to do is take these angels and have their way with them, it's showing us the significance about how far gone these people were from the Lord, okay? And why God was raining his judgment on these people. So they went and they took Lot and his family, and Lot hesitated. Even with this judgment coming, he knew what was to come. So where we ended in this was on Lot's wife. So the Hebrew word that was used, here, let me backtrack. The angels told Lot and his family as they were running, fleeing from the city, oh my gosh, why am I forgetting what was rained down? It was, let me look. Because I always forget what they're called. If you guys remember, please help me. It was balls of fire, but I can't remember. Brimstone and what was the other one? Because it's going to take me too long to look it up. Brimstone and sulfur is what I want to say. Anyway, you guys will potentially put it in the comments faster than I can find it. But anyway, imagine, yeah, it was brimstone and sulfur. Thank you, you guys. But in this moment, so it's raining down these insane things of fire, brimstone and sulfur, right? And so in that moment, as Lot and his wife and his daughters are fleeing, the angels are saying, don't look back, just continue going. And Lot's wife looks back. And a lot of times we see this, I don't know if you guys have ever thought of it like this way. I'm curious if you have. But when we spoke about it, the word in Hebrew that is used, she didn't just glance back like quickly, like for a second. It was one that was a very sustained, deliberate stop. She didn't gaze, or she didn't glance. She had this very fixed gaze, meaning she was like looking almost longingly. And then she was turned into a pillar of salt, right? God, I think there's a lot of symbolism in that because Jesus goes on to mention it in later scripture. So there's a lot happening in that moment. She's turned into an actual pillar of salt. It's not figuratively. Yes, Erica, we spoke a lot about the fact that there's a lot happening to Lot's wife in this moment. She's looking back. She was leaving, not just a city. She was leaving her home. She was leaving her community. She was leaving the men that her daughters were engaged to, who stayed and were lost in all of the craziness of this. Because Lot went to tell his future son-in-laws about it, and they thought he was joking. So she's not a villain. Okay, she is a woman she was in this impossible scenario where these people came to her and said, you need to leave right away. And the heart of that isn't someone who is being intentionally disobedient. We also spoke about the fact of how it works psychologically, right? When you are in this place of just so much happening around you, it's hard not to try to look back on all of the things in the past. Okay, so she was in this place and had to leave it just like that. But ultimately, the heart of the story is like you cannot move forward into the place that God is calling you if you're so focused on the things that you're leaving behind. You can't fully heal if you're constantly focusing on the past. Okay? So she was deliberately fixed in this place. And God essentially made a point about it. If you want to stay fixed in that place, you can stay there permanently. But the healing that I'm trying to walk you through, this next place I'm trying to walk you to, you have to keep your eyes on me, right? So we talked about, all of that, all the things that she was leaving. We also spoke about the fact, and the question that I left you guys yesterday with is, are you leaving it or are you looking back at it? You can physically leave something, but are you still emotionally in that space? Okay, so today we're going to be with Abraham and Sarah, and then we're going to get back to Hagar. So if you just jumped in, good morning. We are in Genesis 20 and 21. I just wanted to give you a recap of that. We're going to be talking about a fear pattern that repeats. We see this happening a lot with Abraham and Sarah. It's so relatable. I'm going to tell you guys, it is so relatable and I think it's intentionally put in there with the man who was given this beautiful covenant, right? And it is one where fear shows up. How often does that happen in our lives? Where fear kind of takes us away from being in the right state of mind. And then we make a decision based on that. So that's where we're at. If you guys are new here, I encourage you to put in the comments an emoji. You can say, I'm new here, whatever that looks like. I have a gift for you. It's just 40 questions that I've created to help you guys through tough decisions. And I want to send that to you. So if you guys put that in the comments, I DM it to you. And so make sure that you guys check your comments. There's some of you guys that were on the live yesterday or in the past couple days, because I just started doing that, that just make sure you check, because sometimes TikTok doesn't notify you. And I want to make sure you guys are getting it. You guys can also go to the link in my bio, and there's like a link tree. You guys can put that in there, or you can go to any of those things and follow. But I want to make sure I get that sent to you as my thank you for you guys being on the live. You don't have to be new. So Raina, yes, you do not have to be new. I know, Rick, you said you're new-ish here. If you haven't had any of the questions, I'll send them to you. If you guys want them, you absolutely don't have to be new here. But that's my gift to you guys. So we're going to get started finally in Genesis 20. So thank you, Erica. I do this all on my own. So we have Genesis 20. Again, I'm reading from a New King James Version of the Bible. And this is about Abraham and Abimelech. Okay. And it says, and Abraham journeyed from there to the south, Why do I feel like I skipped something? You know what? I think it's because I didn't finish 18 yesterday. I was almost done, and then we didn't fully finish that part of it, but we're caught up. That's why I felt like, man, this feels a little bit abrupt. So, and Abraham journeyed from there to the south and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and journeyed to Gerar. Now Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, "She is my sister." Okay, I just want to pause there because he's doing it again. Okay, if you're familiar with the story, then you guys know what I'm talking about. A few chapters back, Abraham had left. He lied. He told a half truth. Abraham had been given the covenant from God, and he told him, "Journey to a place that I will show you." Right? So he didn't know exactly where he was going. He's on this journey. He gets to a place where there's a famine. He feels like, okay, this isn't going to sustain me. Now I need to go to Egypt. He gets there, but prior to that, he tells his wife, Sarai, okay? So it's Abram and Sarai. Their names are more recently changed to Abraham and Sarah. But he tells his wife, Sarai, "Tell the Pharaoh that you are my sister." They're going to see that you're so beautiful that they're going to want to do away with me. Okay? So it's not a full lie because Sarah is his half-sister. So he's not fully lying. But we do see the consequences of what happens when he does lie. God sends a plague on Pharaoh because Pharaoh does indeed think Sarah is so beautiful and wants to take her as his wife, and then later finds out. I agree. Sarah had to be real beautiful for the fact that the Pharaoh saw her amongst all these people. I mean, they're brand new. And he's like, "You are the one. I'm going to take you." So yeah, she had to be something. But it is one where he does it out of fear. And then here he is again. They're going to a new place. And he tells her again, "Tell him that you're my sister. Tell him that Sarah is my sister." And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. She must be something if all of these kings are just taking her. Okay. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "Indeed, you are a..." She was like 90 something at least. So that is very true. Indeed, you are... I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this in context. You are a DEAD. I don't know any other way to say this so that TikTok doesn't get rid of me. You're a goner because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. See? She must have been so beautiful because Abimelech took her and wanted her to be his wife as well. Okay, but God had to intervene in this moment and tell Abimelech, like, this is another man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, "Lord, will you slay a righteous nation also? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister'? And she, even herself, said, 'He is my brother.' In the integrity of my heart and innocence of my hands, I have done this." And God said to him in a dream, "Yes, I know that you did this with the integrity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now, therefore, restore a man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, you and all who are yours." So Abimelech rose early in the morning, called all his servants, and told them all these things in their hearing, and the men who were very much afraid. And Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? How have I offended you that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done deeds to me that ought not to be done." Then Abimelech said to Abraham, "What did you have in view that you have done this thing?" And Abraham said, "Because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will unalive me on account of my wife. But indeed, she is truly my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she also became my wife. And it came to pass when God caused me to wander from my father's house that I said to her, this is your kindness that you should do for me. In every place wherever you go, say of me, he is my brother. Then Abimelech took sheep, oxen, and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham. Sorry, I just have to pause there. Why is it every time that Abraham lies about Sarah being his sister, the king gives him stuff? I guess I don't know if you guys know the answer to that, but that's the same thing that happened when he was in Egypt. The Pharaoh said, I'm going to give you silver and livestock and servants. And he walked away wealthier than when he had arrived. And here it is again, same scenario. So I find that blessed him. I just find that so interesting that they're doing that. I need to study that. I need to study why, based on the culture. That has to be something in the context of their time. So I should look into that. Then Abimelech took sheep, oxen, and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham, and he restored Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, see, my land is before you dwell, where it pleases you. Then Sarah, he said, behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Indeed, this vindicates you before all who are with you and before everyone. Thus she was rebuked. So Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants. Then they bore children, for the Lord had closed up the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Okay. I'm going to pause there. Where is it that found in the, so what I'm referencing about Abraham and his wife Sarah is in Genesis, give me one second. It's in Genesis 12. I would just read all of Genesis 12. That's where they talk about the Egyptians. So I'm going to bring you guys up to speed about what's happening. So we have this moment where Abraham is in this time. So he moved from the region of Negev. And he lived between Kadesh and Shur. So that's where he is in this place. I should look in my maps and see where that is modern day. But he stayed a while in Gerar. And then Abraham said to his wife, Sarah, she is my sister. Okay. So again, told a half truth. And then essentially what he does is the same decision that he made in Genesis 12 with the Pharaoh. It's a different country, right? He's not in Egypt anymore. There's a different king because it's not the Pharaoh. He's now speaking to Abimelech. And he's using that same half truth, saying that Sarah is his sister, okay? She is his sister, technically. And I don't want to spend the full study here because to me, this is just a primary application, okay, to show you what we're going to talk about in Genesis 21. But I wanted to make sure that I didn't skip this passage because I think it shows us something so honest about how fear operates in people who are genuinely called and people who are genuinely faithful, right? We have Abraham who has this incredible covenant with God. God saw him as someone who is worthy of being the father of a great nation. And so that speaks a lot to how God views us as humans too, knowing that we are going to operate in fear and we're still worthy, right? He doesn't want us to be afraid. How many times in the Bible does it say, do not be afraid? But he's showing us, I believe, something very significant. And I didn't want to skip past that part because it's showing us too, like he's still operating in this place of fear, even with the promise, even though God has come to him, told him exactly what it was that he was going to be promised, told him when it's going to happen, right? He says at the appointed time, God's going to be back. And, you know, he's had this covenant. So he's received the promise. It's been confirmed in Genesis. We see that in Genesis 17 and 18. He's interceded for Sodom. He's walked with God throughout years of waiting From the point where God gives him the promise to where he's been, it's years, years and years. I can't even remember how many years it's been, but it's been a lot. He's 99 when the promise comes to be. Okay, so here he is again now in a new place with a new king, and he has the same fear that surfaces, and it produces the same decision. Okay, yeah, it might be 20 years. I know that Ishmael is at least 13 when God comes to him and tells him, okay, now Sarah's going to be pregnant. Anyway, what this is showing me is that fear decides what is true about a new situation before any of the evidence of it is there. Okay, it doesn't wait for God to show us what is actually happening in this moment. Abraham had already decided, right? And he decided, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to manage it in this way. And then he runs with this half-truth. And then he protected himself from this threat that he thought was there. But God had already accounted for it. He already accounted for it before Abraham even arrived in this place, because he says, okay, Abraham's going to do the same exact thing. I need to warn Abimelech so that he doesn't sin. And thankfully, Abimelech turned out to be a man of God, right? He was a man that God could speak to in a dream, and a man who responded immediately. This was a man also who had more integrity in this chapter than what Abraham did. Okay? Abraham couldn't see it because he had already written the conclusion before the story played out. I believe that we do this constantly. Okay, so if we bring it back to business, right? Put on our business hat. Sometimes we have a difficult client. Maybe we are going to try to be on some new platform and it's intimidating for us. Or we feel like I can't start my business because I'm scared. The market's not good, or, people won't want to pay, whatever it is, right? We decide in our minds what's possible in this new environment before we even give God the room to move in it, right? And then we run, I feel like, in the same place that Abraham did, where he's trying to self-protect. Like, we try to self-protect in the same way that Abraham does. We operate in fear. So we try to manage all of the things that we feel are a threat, we think is a threat, that we've decided was real before we even gave God the opportunity to move and show us what he was going to actually do in that moment. I do that frequently. And I think if we would just sit long enough to allow God to move in the way that he needs to, it would change so much. So much about it. But the thing that shows me too is even when we operate in fear, God has already accounted for that when he gave us the calling. That gives me some encouragement that even when I mess up, God has already had a plan in place and he will see it through. There's no amount of things that I can do, no things that I can mistake or throw myself off track or operate in fear and run ahead of him and try to manage it, that God hasn't already seen. Okay, and he's going to move whatever he needs to move to make sure the plan still comes through. That gives me so much, like, oh, okay. Because I serve a big God, right? I serve a God that nothing is impossible for him. He gave us that calling, right? He gave Abraham the calling. He said, I see you worthy. I know that you're going to mess up. I know you're going to stumble. I know you're going to not want to wait. You're going to try to get somebody else pregnant, right? Well, he does. He does get somebody else pregnant because you're scared. You don't see how I'm going to make the impossible happen, right? Because his wife, Sarah, she was barren. She couldn't have children. So that's where Hagar came into the picture, right? Hagar is the maidservant, or she's the servant that he acquired in Egypt. And Sarah came to Abraham and said, well, I know you have this promise on you. I'm barren. I don't see how I'm going to have a baby. We've been waiting a long time. Go sleep with Hagar. So he does. Then they mistreat Hagar and she runs, right? She runs back to the place that she knows. And then God meets her there. And he still blesses Hagar, right? There's so much. If you guys haven't studied that, I encourage you to go look at the vault that I have of the replays. I love this. I love Genesis 12, or not Genesis 12. I love the story of Abraham. I love this in Genesis. I love all of Genesis, right? I love the whole Bible. But I love this especially for us that are running businesses, because Abraham is us. He was given a great calling, and it shows us how God still sees us even in the times where we're operating in fear. When we don't want to wait anymore, when we can't see and it looks impossible. Erica, yes, you make me laugh so much. Yes, except for all of the names. I can't with the names sometimes. But in the times, we just know that we have a calling placed on our life, and it just continually shows me that it is one where God is going to make it happen. There's nothing that we can do aside from, just wanting to depart from him. But if he gave you that calling, he already accounted for all of those things. So do you guys ever feel like that? Like I can't do it. Maybe I missed God. Maybe I misheard him. Maybe I stepped incorrectly. Maybe I made a mistake. He's not going to be able to use me anymore. Maybe he'll take the calling away from me. I hope that shows you guys that that's not true. The waiting. I will say the waiting is very hard. I agree. I encourage you to when you feel those moments where the wait seems like it's just never going to happen. That's how Abraham and Sarah felt. They were like, I don't even know. It's been so long. It's probably not even going to happen anymore. Maybe God forgot about me. I want you to remember two things. I want you to remember this in Genesis, right? Genesis 17 through wherever we go, but for sure 21, right? And then remember Genesis 8, verse 1. God remembered Noah, because that means that he is moving on our behalf. He is making a way even when we can't see what he's doing. He's making a way before we even know that he's going to, before we even know we need anything, God is already making a way. He moves intentionally for us, just like he did for Abraham with Abimelech. Okay. I love too that in this moment, there's a lot of times that I feel like in Genesis 20 that can easily be missed. But the thing that I see is that God didn't remove Abraham from the story because he messed up again. It didn't disqualify him from the promise, right? God didn't sit there and say, never mind, I'm going to take this promise away from you. When God gives a covenant, God intentionally, what we've seen with Noah and the covenant he made with Noah, and now this covenant that he made with Abraham, is that when God makes a covenant, God puts the weight of the covenant on him. He puts the full responsibility on himself, and he does that because he knows that we are going to mess up. It's not that he thinks like, oh, you're going to fail. He just knows that we're human, right? But he puts all the weight. He puts it on the one who can guarantee the covenant and the fulfillment of it. And so it didn't disqualify him from that promise. It wasn't going to take it away just because this old fear fired up again, right? And then we see at the appointed time in Genesis 21, it arrived exactly on schedule. That's what we're going to see in Genesis 21, okay? So we have in Genesis 21, Isaac is born. So Isaac is from Sarah, Abraham's wife, okay? It says, and the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, who Sarah bore to him, Isaac. Then Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, and as God had commanded him. Now Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made me laugh, and all who will hear will laugh with me. She also said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? For I have borne him a son in his old age. Okay, I'll pause there before I go on to Hagar and Ishmael. So in this moment, there's a lot happening. We see God kept his promise. So in Genesis, I think it was 18, God had come to Sarah because Sarah laughed. So in this moment, God is speaking to Abraham with his other two angels, telling him about the promise. Sarah is in a tent listening, and she overhears God, and she laughs because she thinks, I'm literally 90 years old. How is it going to be that... Oops, sorry, give me one sec, guys. It's that time where I have to drag my puzzle piece so that TikTok doesn't turn off, and I did it wrong. So good thing it didn't throw me off. Anyway, so we're in this moment. Sarah's listening in her tent. She overhears God speaking, and she laughs. And God finally comes to her and says, why did you laugh? And Sarah says, I didn't laugh. And God's like, no, you did. Why did you laugh? And then he says, do you not, I'm paraphrasing, I'm oversimplifying it, but essentially he says, do you not believe that I can do the impossible? And so when you have your son, I want you to name him Isaac, which means he laughs, right? Something like that. I can't remember exactly what it means. And so in this moment, we're seeing that God is doing exactly what he promised. He also tells Sarah in this moment that he's going to come back at the appointed time. So he's also telling her that you tried to operate in fear and push this timeline and push this promise and make it happen because you had Hagar carry her son, which is Abraham's son as well. You tried to force the moment, but there was always an appointed time. It's going to happen in this moment, which tells us that God already has a time, and more often than not, we're always trying to operate in our own timeline. And then we think, oh my gosh, it's never going to happen. But ultimately, there was always a time. We just couldn't see it. And so God had also told Abraham, you need to circumcise all the boys, and you need to do it within 8 days. So that's what's happening in this point in time, right? So now we have Abraham. He's 100 years old, and he finally has that promise, which shows us that God is true to his promise, right? So it's showing us, right? Like God came back in the appointed time when he said he would. He arrived right on schedule. Even after everything that just happened in Genesis 20, where Abraham tried to operate in fear. To me, it shows that the provision is not contingent on us having this perfect performance, right? We don't have to do everything. I feel like that I'm speaking to myself. But a lot of times I think that we tend to feel like if I even mess up just a little bit, God might take it away. I also feel too, it doesn't give us permission to stay in this place where we're operating in fear. I find it interesting that every time that Abraham operates in fear, he's kind of rewarded for it. I don't believe that God is saying like, that's okay. Like I'll reward you for your fear and it's okay if you stay in that. I don't believe that's what's happening. It's just, to me, it's giving us information about who God is, right? He holds the timeline. And we're not going to lose our appointed time just because we got scared in this new environment, or we got scared by something that intimidated us. And we do it in a way where we're operating in our own wounds, like our old coping mechanisms, our old patterns. I also love too that God protects Sarah anyway. So he tells Abimelech that in a dream, like he warns him, and then he confronts Abraham and returns Sarah. And then Abraham prays for his household. Okay. But I want you to notice in that God had to work around Abraham's assumption. To me, this was Abraham's assumption that he had to, in order to get the outcome, God, I'm trying to think of how to word this. In order for him to get the outcome that God intended, he had to work around it. Okay? He always does that. I feel like he is always doing that with us. We operate in our own way, and God has to go in and intervene or make sure that it's going to happen. I feel like in this moment, Abraham missed what God was actually doing in the king's life because he had already written the situation off. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you pushing out the live. It means a lot to me. So we see immediately after that happens in Genesis 21, the appointed time arrives. I cannot even imagine how that felt. Okay, you have Abraham who's 100 years old. We have Sarah who's in her 90s. They're finally having this baby. I think of so many people who have been trying for so long and waiting, and they count themselves, like they discount themselves. And then it happens. Like that moment I can imagine is just so incredible. So we see though that it says that essentially what it's talking about is that the Lord is so gracious to Sarah and that he did what he promised. So she became pregnant and she bore a son to Abraham in his old age at the very time that God promised. So in Hebrew, that word means at the very time. So at the very time that he had spoken, okay? There was an appointed time that was set before Sarah laughed. He already had something in place before she even knew. And it's beautiful because it arrives exactly when God said it would. There was no adjustment to it. He didn't delay any of it because of Genesis 20, right? When he operates in fear. It wasn't contingent upon Abraham and his performance in any area, right? He set an appointed time and he stayed with it. It held, he kept it. And Isaac is born, right? And Sarah says, God has brought me laughter. That same root meaning of that is the same meaning of when she first spoke it in Genesis 18. Okay, that's part of Isaac's name. It means laughter. It's the laugh where she disbelieved. She disbelieved that it was going to happen, and it became a laugh of fulfillment. I think that it's a moment where it feels like it was impossible for her to believe that it could happen. And God turned it around and said, now it's impossible for you to deny it. All right, so I'm going to pause here before I move on to the next thing, just so I can welcome you guys in and say hello, because I will move on. I'll just breeze right through all of this and forget to acknowledge you guys in the comments. And I don't mean that. I also want to thank all of you guys for staying on this live. It always means so much to me when you guys pop in, and shout out to the ones who have been here since I first started the live today. If you're on here, let me know because I want to give you a shout out. But good morning to those of you that are just popping in. We are in Genesis 20 and 21, and it is one where we are seeing, I believe, the beauty of what happens when God makes a promise and fulfills it, right? He always fulfills and keeps the promises that he makes to us, even when we operate in fear, even when we, fall off track, all of the things, right? God is going to see it through. So if you are new here, this is your very first time attending this live, I welcome you. If you put it in the comments, I have a gift for you. You can put an emoji, you can say I'm new here, whatever that looks like. Give me 1 second, you guys. If you put that in the comments, I will send you the gift. It's 40 questions to help you through bigger decisions, right? Those tough decisions. And it just helps you maybe think of a different way to ask, one that puts you in more alignment with God. So I will send it to all of you. Like Erica said earlier, I'm doing it myself. So give me grace, but make sure that you guys check your DMs. I try to, after this live, go right in and message it to all of you. If you don't want to wait, there's a link in my bio and you guys can download it there as well. It's too big for me to just send directly, so I have to email it to you. But that's how I do it. So welcome. That's my gift to every single one of you. If you guys are not new here and you still want the guide, I will send it to you as well. Just let me know. So we're going to move on. In Genesis 21, we have Hagar, and she's in the wilderness now a second time. Okay, so she was in the wilderness earlier on in Genesis. She left because Abraham and Sarah had mistreated her. I think that Sarah, again, was operating in a state of fear because in the context of the time, Hagar is now pregnant, or she was pregnant in that time, by the head of the household, right? So therefore, Sarah lost her status, and I think she felt resentful. To me, that's also showing what happens when we operate in our own, outside of the way that God originally intended. It can allow for, I'm trying to think of the best word. Corruption is the word that I think, but I guess I'll use that. It allows for sin to enter in and mess with our minds, right? And so she mistreated Hagar to the point where Hagar's like, I need to leave. She's pregnant. She's vulnerable. She's fleeing back to Egypt, and God meets her on the road back. And to me, and I'd love if you guys think of it differently, the way that I think of it is that there's nothing in scripture that supports that Hagar had a close relationship with God prior to this. So it's one where I believe that God is meeting her for the very first time, right? And the first encounter that she has with God is one where God blesses her abundantly. He goes to her. He meets her exactly where she's at, in this place where she's desperate and vulnerable and hurt, and I'm sure scared, like so many things. And she's in the wilderness, and God meets her there. And he tells her to go back. He tells her to go back to this environment that she just left that was awful to her. He's asking something of her, and she obeys. And in that moment, he tells her, you're going to have a son, and you're going to name him Ishmael. Okay? And that means the meaning of the name is the God who hears, right? She didn't call out to him in this moment, but he met her where she was. And therefore, every single time someone says the name Ishmael, that means it's a reminder to her and everyone that God hears you in your times of need, and he doesn't wait for you to reach out to him. He meets you where you're at. And she is the first one in scripture to name him, to give God a name, and she names him. Why do I always trip up on how to say his name? Elroy. It's not even hard, but I always hesitate because I feel like I'm going to say it wrong. She names God. Okay, and so here she is in the wilderness a second time, right? And it says, so we're in Genesis 21, this is verse 8, and it says, so the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, scoffing. Therefore she said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, namely with Isaac. Gosh, sorry, Erica. I should think of like the Jetsons. when I say Elroy. I swear you make me laugh so much. Sorry, that just distracted me. Okay. So in this moment, it is one where Sarah says, cast out this woman because I don't want her and her son to be the heir. And the matter was very displeasing in Abraham's sight because of his son. But God said to Abraham, do not let it be displeasing in your sight because of the lad or because of your bondwoman. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for in Isaac your seed shall be called. Yet I will also make a nation of the son of the bondwoman, because he is your seed. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water, and putting it on her shoulder, he gave it and the boy to Hagar and sent her away. Then she departed and wandered into the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water in the skin was used up, and she placed the boy under one of the shrubs. Then she went and sat down across from him at a distance of about a bow shot. She said for herself, let me not see the passing of the boy. So she sat opposite him and lifted her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. Then the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and he said to her, what ails you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad and hold him with your hand, for I will make him a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the skin with water and gave the lad a drink. So God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. He dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. Okay, I'll pause there. There's so much happening in this moment, okay? Again, Hagar is in the wilderness for a second time, but the circumstances of this second time in the wilderness is different, right? The first time Hagar was there, and she was there because she ran, she was fleeing. But the second time she was actually sent. I also find it so interesting. Sarah is so quick to say, get this woman out of my house. And each time, the first time Abraham went along with it, but this time he didn't want to. And I think it's because he had this connection with his son. That's his son, Ishmael. But the first time she went, it was out of, like, she left because she ran. She was fleeing from a situation. This time she's sent there, but Sarah sees Ishmael now in this moment. He's a teenager. The first time she left, she was pregnant with him. Now he's a teenager. And at this moment, right, Sarah sees Ishmael, she believes to be the heir, right? And she tells Abraham, go ahead and send Hagar and the boy away. And Abraham is distressed in this moment. Then I find it so interesting that God tells Abraham, just listen to Sarah. He also reassures him about Ishmael's future. And then Abraham sends them out. The first wilderness that Hagar had fled to is her fleeing a situation because it had become unbearable. But this one is different. She didn't choose to leave. She was sent. And I have to keep reiterating that because I want you to picture what's happening in this moment, okay? She's sent there with limited resources. It just says she has food and a skin of water into a desert. How scary is that, right? There's two of them. And then the water runs out, and she puts Ishmael under a bush, and then she walks away. She's a bow shot away. So this is far enough that she can't watch him pass away. And she sits down and she starts to cry. I can't imagine that. Okay, I want to stay here because it's so beautiful because I'm seeing a lot. I'm wondering if you guys see this too, but there's a lot of recurring themes that they're finding themselves back in these same situations. Okay. And it's continually showing us that God's heart is the most visible. I think it's very visible in this passage, and a lot of people just move past it, similar to what they did the first time when Hagar was in the wilderness. She's not praying, and she's also not calling out to God, which I find it to be similar to the first scenario, right? I think what happened is she moves away from her son because she's just concluded this is the end, right? I can't bear to watch this. I'm going to sit so far away. My son, like, she's grieving. I think that he's potentially grieving too, but she believes it's already over. And so I feel like she's lost her faith in that moment. Like, she's not in her faith. She's not reaching out to God. She's just concluded that this is just it. She's grieving. She's not seeking. She's not even asking. And again, God still comes. That isn't by coincidence, right? That's the point. This angel that comes to talk to her didn't do that because of something that she did right. I've never seen that. Did you guys just see that thing on TikTok in the chat where it showed somebody arrived? It like went away too far for me to welcome them, but I've never seen it show in that way when somebody joins. I don't know if you guys caught that. You probably didn't, but that was interesting to me. Yeah, I've never seen that. Okay. Well, I'm glad at least somebody else saw it and it wasn't just my imagination. So I want you guys to see that that's the point. She's not calling out to God, and yet the angel still comes. The angel isn't coming to her in this moment because she's doing everything right. She arrives because God sees, right? He's El Roi. That is the name that she gave him in Genesis 16. It's not a one-time experience. That's who he is. And so he saw her when she ran. Yeah, see, there it is again, you guys. So he saw her when she ran, and he sees her now, even when she stopped running and she stopped hoping. To me, that's showing that God isn't responding to her performing. He's responding to her when she's in need. And I think too, he's responding in these times where she can't even muster up enough faith, right? To me, that shows so much about the character of God. That even though we may waver, we may ebb and flow, sometimes we're not calling out to him, sometimes we've just given up, like God still sees that. And he sees that there's a need and he wants to meet that. But then it talks about in the next verse where God hears the boy crying, right? God heard the boy. He didn't hear Hagar crying, even though she is. He heard the boy, Ishmael. Ishmael's name is Yishmael. That's how you say it in Hebrew, which means God hears. So that was the name that was given to him in Genesis 16. And it's that same name that's functioning exactly in the way that it was designed to, right? God hears him. So to me, there's a declaration that's embedded in his name that he was given at the time of his birth that's now being activated in this moment of his greatest need. Okay? Can you guys see that? Like I don't know how else to explain how beautiful that is. That's who God is. He hears. You don't even have to call out to him, right? We see Ishmael, he's crying. Hagar, who's just thrown up her hands and said, now's my time, I'm going to go, right? She's wavering in her faith. It's not showing that she's reaching out. God doesn't need that from us. He just knows. So the angel of God calls from heaven, right? And he says, what's wrong, Hagar? Right? What ails you? I love that God does that. I will say that time and time again. I love how God does that. He's not doing it because he doesn't know. He's not getting information. He already knows. He wants us to name it. Okay. So Hagar's in this moment and she has the same, to me, it's as direct as it was in that same encounter, right? He comes to her, he calls her by name, he speaks to her actual situation that she's in. He's also, I think, telling her, don't be afraid. And God has, I think, he's heard the boy, right? He's seen both of them. He sees all of us, right? Give me 1 second. I'm not going to even honor that question because it tends not to go anywhere. So I just needed to mute and block the person. Sorry, guys. I haven't had to do that for a while. Okay. So in this moment, he asks her, what's wrong, Hagar? He wants her to name what's happening. And then what he does is he lifts the boy up, right? Does he lift up the boy, or does he tell her to lift up the boy? He says, arise, lift up the lad and hold him with your hand. So he's telling her, pick him up. Take him by his hand. So to me, he's giving her this physical instruction and it's immediate. I want you to stop sitting a bow's shot away and go back to where he is. Take his hand. So she had this posture of grief and she was sitting at a distance. And he's telling her, don't be in that posture anymore. I want you to be present and move. Okay? He doesn't want us sitting in that place. And so I believe that what he does is he opens up her eyes, right? He says, look at this well that's here. Give me 1 second, you guys. So, Erica, I've only seen it twice. I don't know if you guys have seen that new feature. I find that interesting. I've never seen it before, but yeah, hopefully it doesn't get to be too distracting. But anyway, so we have God who has opened up Hagar's eyes and she sees this well of water. Okay, so God opened up her eyes to something. It's already sitting there and she didn't even see it. It's not like God, it's also not a hallucination. I picture it too, like, it could be read like this, where like she's sitting there and she has what are they called? A mirage? And it's just like she's hallucinating that it's there because she's just so dehydrated potentially, but that's not what's happening, right? God didn't create it in this moment. It was just already there. And I believe that it was already present before she already sat down, before she had water that ran out, before she decided to sit a bow shot away, but she just couldn't see it. I think the opening up her eyes, like God opening up her eyes, is the miracle, not the well. Okay. And I want to point that out because I think a lot of times when we're looking for provision in these seasons, we have our eyes closed to what God is doing, right? So I feel like a lot of times we've been praying all of these prayers, right? In provision seasons, we say, God, make something. God, send something. God, build something new, right? Do something, whatever the prayer is. To me, Hagar's story is asking us to consider the well, right? It's already in our path. It's already in our landscape. And a lot of times we just can't see it because of where we're sitting in this situation. I think the bow shot also matters too, because we have Hagar. She walked away from a place of provision where she was at, and she sat in grief. To me, that's also showing like there's already an answer. God has already answered us. And we're just so focused on the things that we don't have, the things that we believe God hasn't answered when He already has, but we just are so in this moment that we don't even have the eyes to see what He's done. She positioned herself in this place at a distance, at the very location that the answer was. That's what happens when you have this unprocessed fear and exhaustion, right? They don't just drain you. I think a lot of times they move you away from all of the resources. And then our conclusion ends up becoming, okay, well, I don't even have any resources. So I want to put that in more of a business and life perspective so you guys can see in its fullness, okay? So what's happening is I think that the prayer ends up shifting to this, right? When we can sit in this posture of provision, right? When we can pray to God and say, God, open my eyes to what you've already placed here. Okay? Help me to see what's already in my landscape, what's already in my path, okay? When we can pray in that way, I think that whether it's like a relationship, maybe we're saying like, okay, I pray that I'm married. Maybe I'm praying that I have kids. Open up my eyes to the things that you're already doing. Maybe I'm praying for like skills. Maybe it's like a skill that I counted I'm like, I want to be able to play an instrument, but I don't think I can. I'm too old. Maybe I want you to open up a door that I've been walking past because it didn't happen in the time that I thought it was, right? Instead of sitting in despair and discounting ourselves and saying, this is never going to happen. I'm going to contend. I'm just going to just come into agreement with it, essentially. Maybe you know what this makes me think of? I have family members that they've been living with like debilitating pain. And it's just become a part of who they are to the point where they're just like, okay, this is just how it is, right? Instead of doing that, ask God to open up your eyes and then move towards what you see. It might not be the answer in the way that you are envisioning it, but the thing that I know about God is that whatever He has in store is so much better than what I could have ever envisioned. When it comes to business, I think that a lot of women sit in like this gap, right? And I'll use like money because that's probably the most relevant one. So they're sitting in this gap with their revenue and they think, okay, it's because I'm not making money because I don't have enough resources. But literally you're sitting like right there. You're sitting right there from it, right? You already have an offer or something, some part of your service, a product, whatever it is. It's already working. You have an audience that's interested in it. You have something that's already worked, and then you just push it aside because you thought you needed something new. The well shows me it's not usually something new. It's already within what you've built, right? Sometimes you just need the eyes to see and the patience, right? You don't always need God to create a new stream of income or new stream of something. You just need our eyes to see what God is already producing, what He's already placed for us. It's already sitting in the ground of what we've done in the past, right? Go back to that. Focus on what's sitting right in front of you that's working. Okay, so we have Hagar, and she's in the desert of Beersheba, right? This is the same region. And this ends up becoming one of the most significant locations in all of this patriarchal narrative. Sorry, I don't know why that word is so hard for me to say sometimes. So we're going to see later in this same chapter that Abraham is going to, he's going to covenant with Abimelech and name that place Beersheba. It's like not even that different of a name. And so the provision is already in the ground. Okay, so it's already in the ground before God had planned for Hagar. Sorry, how should I word that? The provision is like the well is already in the ground. The provision is already in the ground before Hagar arrived to it. Okay, before she could even see what was there. What ends up happening is the action that follows, right? God opened up her eyes, but she had to take action to what was next, right? I love that she also doesn't end up waiting for someone to bring water to her. She just opens her eyes and she sees the well and then she goes to it. Okay, so, let's see. It says, then God opened up her eyes and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the skin with water and gave the lad a drink. Okay. So her eyes were open. She sees the well. She goes to it. She fills the skin and she gives it to her son. It's also showing me that we can see something, but if we just stay stagnant in this place, nothing's going to happen, right? Like, it reminds me of the story of the lame man when God tells him, arise, grab your mat, and walk. He could have just sat there and stared at Jesus in that moment and said like, okay, but he did it. He took action. He moved towards it, right? Oh, thank you, Erica. Okay, so it's one thing for us to pray and say, God, give me the eyes to see. He will, but if, first of all, you're not paying attention, and second of all, you have to take action. If you don't do those things, like how can you move towards what God is calling you to or trying to show you if you don't participate in it as well? I also want to connect. So I've been forgetting to do this in the past couple of studies, but I want to show you a couple of corresponding verses that connect with this. Okay, so before I do that, I just want to continue to welcome you guys. Also, props to those of you that have stayed on this live for the hour and a half that we've been on. We are in Genesis 20. So if I have not had a chance to say good morning to you, good morning. If you are new here, I encourage you to put an emoji, to put I'm new here, and I will send you a gift. It's 40 questions. I'm going to DM them to you, but I just want to say good morning to you guys before I just continue to steamroll through all of these things, and just know that I see you. I know you're here. I just want to also support you guys as well. So I do want to also say, and I haven't been very good at doing this, thank you guys for the hearts and the gifts and the shares and the follows, all of the support, you guys, the comments in here. It means the world to me. Even though I may not always say it on here, just know that I see that and I appreciate it more than you guys know, truly. So I want to go back to these corresponding parts in scripture. And I do that because the beauty of the Bible is that it shows us so much of the supporting text, in that there's so many parts of scripture that correspond, reinforce one another, right? And so I want to focus on 2 Kings and Ephesians, okay? And I'm curious, for those of you guys that are on the live, are you just listening, or do you actually have your Bible with you? If you have your Bible, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just genuinely curious. If you guys have your Bible with you, I'm curious to know what version you're reading from. I have a New King James version, but I always love how I I tend to see a common theme of what people read from. And a lot of them, for a lot of people, it's the King James Version. And the other one is ESV. Those are the two most common. I love my New King James Version, but I tend to see a theme of those two popping up, but I'm just always curious. And it's totally fine if you guys listen in the background. That's actually how I listen to most of my studies. I was just curious. I'm having to do that a lot today. I don't know why. Okay, so that's where we're at. We're going to go to 2 Kings. I'm going to be in chapter 6, verse 17, okay? It says, so Naaman said, then if not, please let your servant be given 2 mule loads of earth, for your servant will no longer offer either burnt offerings or sacrifice to other gods, but to me, the Lord. Right? Is that right? No. I was like, that's not where I want to be. Okay. I was reading from 5:17, not 6:17. Give me 1 second, you guys. Okay. Then Elijah prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elijah. Okay. So in this moment, what we're seeing is that we have Elijah and his servant, and they're surrounded by the enemy army. Okay, so the servant is afraid, and Elijah prays, Lord, open my eyes, okay, so that he may see. And what does God do? He opens up the eyes of the servant, right? It says the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And what he sees is the mountain, and it was full of horses and a chariot of fire surrounding Elijah. Okay, so there's provision, there's protection, there's resources that were already present in all of this. But the servant couldn't see it. The prayer in this moment wasn't about, God, give me everything I need, right? Give me all the resources. Father, open up my eyes so that I can see what you've already done for me. Not give me more of something new. Show me what you've already laid out for me. And I think there's so much in that prayer. That shows me a lot of faith. It shows me that it's trust in that God has provided for us already. And sometimes we're so blinded by the things of the world, right? We're so blinded by, I want the newest. I want this. I saw you did this for somebody else. And God's like, but look what I'm doing for you now. Okay? He's saying, open up your eyes to see what's right in front of you. One prayer that I pray very often, okay, I want to be content in every circumstance, Father. If this desire is not of you, because I do believe God gives us desires, right? Gives us goals and dreams, right? I think that's part of the calling. It's not just in business, but in life in general. And sometimes we get so blinded by all of the things in the world. We want to keep up with the Joneses, right? That's the term. That we forget all of the things that He has taken us through, but all of the ways that He's already prepared for us, right? Like He's moved in intention and says, look, I have it for you right here. And you know what? He does that before we even ask. He's already prepared it. It's like He is our incredible Father, right? But I love to equate it to me as a mom. I already know that my boys are going to want to eat. I know their patterns. I know their ways. Soon as I go to pick up my youngest from daycare, I'm like, I better have a snack for him because he's going to be angry if I don't. Right? And before he even asks, it's right there. Or as he goes to ask, I have his snack right there. That's me equating it to our everyday. But like, that's just what I think of a father who already knows us, who knows every need that we're going to have, and he's moving in with intention on our behalf before we have even had the thought. So it's present. But a lot of times we're so blinded by all of the things going on around us that we can't see what's right in front of us. So I want to go to Ephesians. It's Ephesians chapter 1, verse 18. So I think it's on this page. I just wanted to double check I was in 1 before I started reading the wrong verse again. So we have, this is the eyes of your understanding be enlightened, that you may know what is the hope of his calling, what are the riches of the glory of his inheritance in the saints. So what that's telling me is pray that our eyes and our heart may be enlightened. In the Greek, the word that's used, I can't even pronounce. But what it means is that it's illuminated, that it be lit up or opened up to what's already present. Okay. So in this moment, what Paul is doing is he's praying that same prayer that Elijah prayed. Oh my gosh. I have to stay on track, but don't let me forget your comment, Omar, because it's making me laugh and you'll understand why. And it's very lame. So, my reason for laughing is very lame. So in this moment, we have Paul additionally praying that same prayer or very similar prayer as what Elijah was. Okay. There is a pattern across this passage, the one we just read in Kings, and the ones that we're reading in Genesis, right? That same pattern is that the provision precedes the scene. So God is already moving. He's already providing for us before we can even see it. God, when we ask him to open up our eyes, he's opening up our eyes to what he's already placed in front of us, what he's already done for us. So the response to us opening up our eyes is always movement, right? There was movement towards the well, which we saw in Genesis. There was movement towards the resource, which we saw with Elijah's servant in Kings. And then now it's saying movement towards what was already present before we could even see it. Okay, so there's a theme. Good morning, Carolyn. So if you guys haven't connected it, the piece that I'm wanting you to see is that God placed this well before Hagar arrived in the desert, before she even ran out of water, before she sat down in grief and just had thrown up her hands and said, I can't, we're gone. She sat a bow shot away, but God had already provided for her before she was even in crisis, okay? And you know what? He provided a well for her. He didn't just provide a little bit just to sustain her. He provided for her abundantly. He also wasn't, what I see in this moment, he wasn't scrambling to respond to her emergency. He was already positioned. He had already positioned the answer in the ground for her. Okay, that's who he is. He doesn't react to us in these times where we feel like we're in a wilderness, like Hagar, right? He provides before we even enter into the wilderness. He's already giving us our well, right? But a lot of times we are so stuck in this situation, we're so grieved, we're so disheartened, we're discounting that we can ever get out of it. But who is our God? He is the God that moves in impossible situations. There is nothing too big for God, right? But a lot of times, it's like asking God to lift the fog over our eyes. We just have to ask him to open up our eyes. That's who he is. So that's what today was. And if you know someone who is in that season, right? I feel like there's so many people we know that are in their own kind of wilderness. That's potentially us, right? We're in that wilderness. Share that with them. Share this verse. Share. You can share the replays with them. The replays are available to anybody. It is one where I believe sometimes it's just us opening up our eyes and like having a reminder of, wow, God, you moved me out of this season. I had everything I already needed. We have everything that we could ever want or need with God, right? I think just even the biggest thing, I will say this, the biggest thing I do with the women in my community when I coach them, even though it's branding and marketing based, right? Like there's a background in that because we're running businesses. So there's an element of that, but the faith is the foundation. And I will tell you, when God took me through the journey of what he took me with Eden and Empire, as I was building it, it was one where more often than not, women don't need new information. Okay. So many of us business owners, or moms, or wives, or husbands, whatever leader, whatever you're leading, right? It's not that we need new information. It's that we have to reorient our mind with what God actually already did. How he moves you out of seasons, or how he's trying to lift the veil over your eyes to say, hey, don't operate in this way. Come back to the original design, right? Come back to this place where you are running not from striving, not from performing, not out of hustle. I gave you those talents, those gifts, the calling, right? I gave you everything you need. You are already qualified. Yes, I will continue to qualify you. I will continue to prune you. I will continue to transform you. But the thing that I found is when I'm working with women, I don't start with the strategy. I start with who you are. And I do that because that's what God showed me. That's what he shows us in scripture. I believe this story is so relevant. And I don't tend to point that out when I do studies, but I think it's so relevant because a lot of times we go from coach to coach to coach to mastermind to this, and we think, oh my goodness, I'm going to get this new piece of information. Let me invest in this, and I'm just going to have this breakthrough moment. And I will say there are some times where you do, but I will say more often than not, you're searching for something that is already right in front of you. God has already given you every single thing that you need, and he will continue to provide for you even before you know that you need it. So that's what that shows me. So I just had to point that out because I think a lot of times with women in business, it's like, let me move from the next to the next. God is I feel like he's always trying to remind us of who we are. So tomorrow we're going to be in Genesis 22, and it is the altar test, right? God asks Abraham to offer his son Isaac. It's well known. I'm sure many of you know this story. If you don't, definitely tune in. Even if you do, I encourage you. So the same son that God had promised Abraham through the entire promise, right? Who the entire promise runs through, this miracle that took decades for Abraham to receive, we're going to see what he does with that, right? I'm going to handle this passage very carefully, right? But I'm going to be direct about it because I think that it gets misapplied in a lot of ways that are genuinely harmful. But what it's actually doing, so much of it says a lot about our posture, about what we release, and who provides for us, right? We know that this part in Genesis is one where it's very significant to the entire arc of the story. So do not miss tomorrow. I know some of you guys are asking. I go live Monday through Friday at 9 Central. I go live for I'd say my average lives are about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Depending on the day. I don't know why my voice is doing this, you guys. Probably because I've been talking for almost 2 hours straight. So if this is your first time here and you are attending the live just like you just got on, or you missed the last half of it, don't worry, you guys, because I have all of the replays in a vault. If you go to the link in my bio, you can, I need a break. I will. After this, I won't be talking until I pick up my boys in a couple hours. So, but it is one where if you miss it, that's okay. You can catch up. I know that it is sometimes difficult for us to attend the lives throughout the duration for like 2 hours. I'm aware of that. Sometimes that's hard. And so that's why I did that. I did these studies in the vault with the replays. They go back to Genesis 6. I do need to re-record. I have to get like a break in my schedule to account for that. But don't worry, you guys, likely you said you're sad you missed yesterday. It's going to be up. Yesterday's will be up here in a little bit. If you go to the link in my bio, in my link tree, there's a thing that says like Bible study recaps. It sends you an email with the link. And I also send you recaps if you ever miss anything, or you're like, I know that like I only have time for maybe a couple of them next week. I show you what we're talking about the week prior. So I always send you at the end of the week, at least the link again. So, it is one where there's that. And if you guys are new to my studies, this is your first time on the live, I want to give you a shout out. And I want to thank you. I want to send you a gift. And it is 40 questions that you can ask. They're quiet questions for big decisions. That's what it's called. So it just helps reorient your mind. It's just a guide. I can't send it directly through TikTok because it's a guide, like it's big, it's like a PDF. And so I have to email it to you. But I'll send that to you guys if you're interested. You just have to comment like interested or an emoji, or you guys can just go to the link in my bio on my link tree and sign up that way. That'd be a little bit faster probably. But if you do want it, and you comment, just know that I will get to you for sure. But make sure you check your DMs. It will be today that I message it to you. If you were like on any previous live and you're like, well, you didn't send it to me, I probably did, but it's just sitting in your DMs. So make sure to check because I send it there. So I will send it to anybody that's interested. That's my gift to you. These are questions that I ask myself to really reframe how I'm thinking about certain scenarios in motherhood and business and my faith. And I'll get that sent to you guys. So it is one where I go live Monday through Friday, just to recap. I'm going to take a second to answer some of these. I was keeping up pretty much as I could in the comments. Oh, I need to respond to you, Omar. I don't know if my husband's still on. My husband is out, he's able to listen to this today and he's listening through my account, so he probably can't comment. But he doesn't get to attend my lives very often. So Matt, if you're still on and you hear this, let me know because he's gonna think it's silly. But Omar, you said, where's your comment? You said, good morning, sweet potato pie. Okay. I laugh because if you guys don't know me outside of TikTok, I am somebody that makes up a lot of songs and they're just random ones. Like I will make up a song out of anything. And I made up the most random song. It's like so embarrassing. I don't sing, unfortunately. I just literally say random things. And I have this thing that I'll sing to my boys and I'll say, love me now, love me later. Love me like a sweet potato. And I'll just randomly say that. Like I'll just randomly sing it to them. Or like when we eat sweet potatoes a lot. And so when you said that, Omar, it just reminded me of that because I love sweet potatoes and I sing that song literally all the time. So that's what I wanted to tell you guys. That's a fun fact about me that is so random, but I just make up the most silly songs. And no, I can't sing. I don't have that gift. I have the gift of memorizing all the words of songs like that, right? Like I can do it. I can listen to a song a couple times and it be one that I just get down. And my husband's always so surprised because I'll just be like, I have it, but I can't sing. So I did want to say too, you said, what camera and lighting am I using? So my lighting in here today is awful. I normally just use natural light because I have my window here from my office. And so usually that's the lighting that I have. But today is a very overcast day. So I have my lamp on, which I don't normally have. And I don't love, it's a very warm light, but I tend to like cool lighting. So I should just change the bulb. But that's what I have in my office. I love it in here because it's like that cozy. I love turning my lamp on. It just always makes it feel so cozy in here. And then my camera is just my laptop camera. I don't ever think it looks that great. I appreciate when you guys say that, but that's just because I'm used to my professional camera because I did photography for 8 years. And so my podcast is shot from my professional camera. So I always think like, oh, this one's not great, but you guys say it is. So I appreciate it. And then my mic is just my podcast mic. So thank you guys. I mean, I have time today. I'm not doing anything. So if there's ever any questions too that you guys have, now is a good time. If it's a question about faith, if it's a question about business, I know I've been talking for 2 hours, but I'm good. I need to send you guys the message for the gift, but I will get that to you guys today. But I don't really get the time to sit and answer questions from you guys very often. So don't feel obligated to stay on because a lot of you have been on for a long time, but now is that time. I know a lot of you are business owners and I coach faith-driven female entrepreneurs. So that's the lens that I work through is that. But when I coach them, it is a way God had taken me through this journey. And it's a massive piece of my testimony, but I am so grateful that he took me out of the place that I was, where I was striving, where I was trying to perform for him, and took me to this place where it's a full surrender. But I operate now in a way that is at peace. And the definition of success is so different. I have, but in this point that I was in, it was one where my business was growing so fast. I was like on track to hit 6 figures within my first 6 months of pivoting into working in business. But I quickly found that I was burnt out. I was stressed. I was this version of myself that I never wanted to be. And this journey that he took me through is Eden and Empire, which is the name. And I didn't even realize it until I had already started and had been going. And he had opened up my eyes more fully into what it was. So that's a little bit of my background. I don't tend to talk about it very much. I know I should be more bold in it. But I think the reason why I don't is because he took me out of that place where the achievements and the accolades and the recognition and speaking on stages and doing these things left me so empty. So they have meaning, but that's not what qualifies me. It's that lived experience. Like I have clients that on average, they'll spend like $30,000 with me. And so like I take brands and I transform them. But I was like, I want to do something more in depth. How do I glorify God? So that's what Eden and Empire is a little bit more in its fullness. But just know that you guys can pick my brain. I'm a brand and market strategist. So it could be about business. I coach other faith-driven female entrepreneurs. It could be about motherhood. I'm a mom of 2 boys. My husband is also a business owner. He runs a landscaping business. I could maybe give you some insights, not on the landscaping part, but how to run a business like that. If not, I can ask him if there's something that I don't know. But this is just our time. I'll stay on maybe for another 15, 20 minutes, unless you guys are like flowing with questions, then I'll stay on longer. But if it's something where nobody has questions, then I will say, see you tomorrow. But it is one where you guys can pick my brain about anything. I did photography. So I started out, Homer, you said I don't seem like a photographer. That's actually how I started my business. So I started out in newborn photography and loved it. It was just naturally I went into it. And as I went through it, it was something that I loved it, but I just wasn't growing in it. And God called me to this place because I was working a 9 to 5 as well. And I stepped out of it and went more fully in my business. But at that point, I pivoted to working with other businesses. And so I was photographing and doing brand photography, and that was great. But I started to see that businesses were really lacking in having a holistic brand. And so I have a background in that as well. And it just kind of grew from there. So I don't do last year was my last year doing photography. I don't love it, you guys. I did videography and photography. I know how to do it. I take like any of the pictures you see of me on my site are of like I took. So like I know how to do it, and it's like I just didn't love it. So I had to step away from it. So Noelle, you said your business is still in startup, but you love the concept of bringing these two together. I will tell you that so much of I don't know if you're still on here. I'll try to get through these quickly. But if I don't answer your question, no, I will. So please stay on. That is so much of the business landscape, is that business is over here and your faith is over here. And it's like, to me, that is just prime real estate for the enemy to come in and tell you, follow new age stuff. Do self-development to where it relies solely on you, or, strive, perform, go after the awards, go after as much money as you can, like sacrifice, do all of these things. And when you read scripture, that is not what God calls us to, right? So I encourage you, even though your business is still in startup, see what God has in store. Because when you can operate your business in a place where it is in alignment with what God is calling you to, it changes everything. And to me, like I've had the success, and all the while, like what the world deems as success. And all the while I felt myself like on to the next, what's the next goal? Like I wouldn't even sit in it. It was so empty to me. And so you said, H kid, mom of 4, recent new grad of a bachelor's in marketing, and you want to start community content. Is there more to your thing? It looks like it cut off. Maybe not. That is amazing. Yes, marketing. Marketing is fun. I love the marketing side of it. If you ever have any questions, you can totally reach out to me. But I'd love to follow you and support you on that. So congrats on your bachelor's degree. That's exciting. Erica, you said business tip for no sales. Usually it's one of two things. So just to give you like a quick diagnosis without diving deeper into it, a lot of times when it relates to sales, there's either something wrong in your funnel, meaning like the way that you're getting clients in, you're potentially not making sales because they're either confused on what it is that you have to offer, or it is something that you are, they're not converting because they don't know. You could potentially not be bold enough in what it is that you have to offer to them, so they just don't know. A lot of times with sales, we tend to, and I said this the other day, like my goal is to be more confident in who I am. I'm always so nervous of selling to people, about being too salesy. And you have to go into it with the mindset of, I have a gift, I have an answer to something that people potentially are praying for. How could I not share that with them? right? So just be bold in your ask. If you are very bold in your ask, then there's something about it that's not clear to them, or you don't know where your people are hanging out. So there's like usually a couple of steps prior to that. Be really clear on what it is that you have to offer and explain it in a way that like you would a 5-year-old. I use like the KISS method. And so it's like, keep it simple, stupid. Meaning like you keep it so simple that people cannot mistake what it is that you're offering. So that's my tips. I can answer more too. So, Creative Mom said, what is the business model? So my business model, I try to condense this down, but essentially I take women through this 12-month or more journey. It's this framework, the same one that God took me through, of really how to work a business with God, right? That's the simplest way. But it's a sustainable business, a successful business in a way that is determined by you. There's a lot of inner transformation that goes on. So it's like this transformative journey, essentially, is what it is. And we go through, the framework is, we understand who God is, right? We have to know who God is, what He intends for us in business. That's knowing who He is. A lot of it is pointing back to His promises, His word. I intentionally start that way because of the fact that a lot of times when we go through business, the noise comes in and we have to be able to silence it. So if ever you look in scripture, before God calls someone into anything, he commissions them. And so to me, this is a recommissioning, and that's why we start with that first. Then we go deep into the identity work, right? You have to know who God is, to know who you are, to know who you serve. So that's the Eden piece of it. The empire part of it comes into play when we go into your talents, your gifts. That's where more of the branding and marketing stuff comes into play even more. But how do we do it in a way that supports your life, that keeps you whole as a woman, that integrates instead of competes? I like to think of myself as more of an integration strategist, because faith and business and your family are never in competition with one another. They support one another, right? They're meant to be integrated. So how do we do that in a way that honors the season that you're in, and you grow a sustainable, successful business that builds a legacy? So that's the model. Carolyn, I think that your decision to open up a missionary is beautiful. I will say nonprofits are very expensive. But what I do know is that if God gave you the idea, He's going to help give you funding for it. Be really clear on who it is that you want to serve, and then you go out and ask. You put it out there in the world. But pray for that. I would say today's passage is very relevant in your situation. I know you caught it towards the end of it, but pray for God to open up your eyes to the things that He's given you right now. That's my prayer for all of us, I would encourage you to pray, because I feel like a lot of times we think that we need new resources, and God has already given us what we need. Erica, you said so many people are burnt out with their businesses. I would encourage you to, if you're noticing that as a gap, figure out, is there a way that I can incorporate this into my current business model? And I think it is a lot of, with what you do, when you incorporate a lot of AI, showing women how to do that in a way that allows them more time for rest. I don't think most women are technically burnt out with their businesses because they don't like it anymore. They're just not allowing time for rest. They're trying to compete with their families. They're trying to run a business and not producing results. They're just burnt out in all of these areas. And a lot of times it's because they're so focused on the hustle. So yeah, I think that's a part that if you don't already have in your messaging, consider that being part of it. So, Ashley, you're a faith-based sourdough bakery owner. I love baking bread. I have never done sourdough. I make like artisan bread or rolls, or like sandwich bread, and I've never mastered sourdough. It intimidates me, so shout out to you. Your fiance wants to start a landscaping business. Any advice? How? I would say, so based on what I see a lot in the landscaping area, a lot of times they start out in like mowing or softscapes, like a lot of the mulch or spring cleanup or whatnot. I would suggest if he has no experience in landscaping and he wants to move into like hardscapes. My husband does hardscapes, so like the patios, the retaining walls, the big, beautiful, like outdoor living spaces. If he has no experience in it, I would suggest working for a company to gain experience. But if he does have experience, just start. Do bids for people. Go out and put your name out there. You know, any business, you have to be really clear on who it is that you're wanting to serve. I do see him. I'm just really behind Erica. I'm like way up at the top. I don't know where the first part of your question was, Tammy. You said such as nails, barber wax, spray tans, or homestead. I didn't see an additional question unless you're just talking about what you do. So, Diana, you said, I believe God has given me a dream to open a transitional home for women and children and homeless. I actually have a friend who has a ministry like that. It's called Haya Ministries. She more so works with women who have like abuse, or addiction. Well, both. And she just opened up a transitional home. It takes a lot. And so I will continue to pray. I don't mean that to be disparaging by any means. I'm just saying that is a beautiful dream. And so go after it. What are signs you're striving versus surrendering? A lot of it is the mindset that you have. When you go to, in business more specifically, as you're striving, a lot of it is, what are you looking for? Are you looking for validation from man? You are working, like, where is your worth coming from? That's one of the biggest things. When you're doing anything, are you doing it in full surrenderance and saying, God, you have everything. I know that you have gone before me. You have a plan. Maybe I can't see the way. And just resting in the thought that I've come to do what I can do, and I surrender everything else to you, Father. Striving is, I close my laptop for the day, but it still replays in my mind again and again, all of my massive to-do list. And then I work later into the evening, and I don't take weekends off, and I'm taking on client after client after client. I can't serve them well. I'm trying to go after the dollar amount. Like, there's so many examples, but the heart of it is, what are you going after? Are you finding your worth in the money, in the validation, in the awards, the achievements, in the recognition? Or are you saying, I come here on mission, and I know that my job is to show up faithfully, post the post, show up on lives, send out the proposals, send the emails, whatever that looks like, right, for your business. I show up, I do the thing, and at the end of the day, I've done my job. I am enough as I am. That's like my best way that I could answer it. A lot of it is the mentality, and a lot of it is, so a lot of the work that I do with women is psychological. We go through three levels of psychology, right? There's neuroscience, neuroplasticity. Why am I blanking on the third one? 3 different areas of it. That is because so much of our business is mindset, and so much about our heart posture and how we think about business, and the tendencies we have come from our identity being stripped from us, right? So we tend to operate in the old patterns of things we've learned and survival mechanisms and so many other things, and that's what causes us to perform in the way that we do in business. So that's my best answer to you without dissecting it to that level, but that's what we do in the first 3 months of Eden and Empire is it's a lot of unlearning. So you're so scared of the uncertainty, just praying at this time. There will always be an element of uncertainty with business, but even if you were on for the duration of today, just know that God is going to provide before you even have the thought. He's already provided for you. So it's one where he can give you the eyes to see, right? He's given you the eyes to see the calling. You have to move towards it, and you have to move towards it when you're scared. You have to move towards it when you're unsure, when it doesn't look like it's working on paper. He's going to make it happen. So same thing with you, Faithfully Grace. So God has been telling you to write a book, but you don't know how. You just start. You literally just put pen to paper or start writing on your laptop, whatever that looks like for you. And you start messy. You start unprepared. God will qualify you, right? And so you just do. I mean, yes, you can go out and research, but he's already given you every single thing that you need. There's no amount of me telling you, yes, of course I can say, go onto this website and look here and do this. So much of what keeps us in this place is us, like, the fear of moving. So there's another thing that I'll have available for you guys, and I want to share it because I took the women in my community through it. And it's one that helped so many of us, me included. So much of what I coach from is lived experience. And so a lot of times what I'm seeing from you guys, it's an interference pattern from the enemy. So I have to name it as that, because what the enemy does is that he keeps you in this place long enough so that it just doesn't happen. It's not that he's taking the calling away from you. He just has to keep you in this place of stagnation to the point where he delays it so long that it never happens. So these things where we tell ourselves, like, I'm not qualified. Who am I to start something like this? I'm scared. It has to be perfect. What if I mess up? What if I misheard God? Like, all of these things, they're called, like, I call them interference patterns. And it's just what the enemy places in your mind to keep you distracted long enough or delayed long enough that it just never happens. So I will tell you, most of you that are on here, you have everything you need to start. Okay. Brandon, you said, how do you market a junk removal business? Market a day in your life. Market the behind the scenes. Market your process. You have to also have a very clear understanding of what differentiates you from everybody else that has a junk removal business, what your secret sauce is. Be clear on that, and be clear on your audience. You have to know the things that they struggle with. A lot of people miss that. And I don't mean like get their demographics, like where they live, where they hang out. Like, those are important so that you can find them and know where to actually market on, like website, Google, social media, email list. Like, those are important, but you have to know the things that they're struggling with on a deep level, like the things that they're struggling with. Like, for example, people who are hoarders, right? They're the family members of somebody that's a hoarder. Or you could work with another company that does removal, something like that. Like, it may be in a different way. I don't know what you do for junk removal, but it is one where you have to know the things that they are struggling with that maybe they don't tell, like on a deep level, the things that keep them up at night. Then that's what you use in your messaging. When you go to make a post, you have to think, what are they struggling with, to the depth that I have that solution for their problem. So that could be so many different things. Oh, you said you were asking how to pinpoint a desire. You've been asking God and you're still unsure. After your sons became husbands, you feel lost in your own purpose now. I understand that. It's so many parts of your identity change and evolve. So much of the work that I do with women and what I see in scripture is that God wants to keep us whole in the process. And so think of the things. A lot of times what I tend to start with women when they're in this season of being really unclear of the direction that God is taking them into, because a lot are in seasons of transition or pivoting into something more fully within their purpose. You have to look at, what has God already walked you through? So what are the things that people come to you and say, oh my gosh, you're amazing at that? They come to you, maybe it's for advice. Maybe you're great at baking. Maybe you're great at designing. Think of those things that light you up and the things that people tend to come to you for. That's an indicator. God has been setting you up, and he uses your past experiences to qualify you. And so often we already have the talents and the gifts. Think of the things that you love doing, things that you see a need for in the market. Like you could say, I'll use Erica just as an example, just for quickness. Like she said that she noticed that so many women are burnt out in their businesses. You see that, right? Or she sees that. Like, look at the things that, okay, I really love doing this, but I noticed that like there's not a resource for this. I wish I knew this, or I wish I had this when I decided to do this. That's where you fill the gap. You're solving a problem for people. So Lee, you said your fiance started an IT business, did first big job, and now in the hole financially. Yeah. There's a lot in terms of business where when you step out, there's a risk involved in it financially. Like you really have to reinvest in your business. Continue going, and you will make that up. But the initial, for some businesses, yes, there is a lot of investing in it initially. But I pray that it will come to be. I know that it will. So, yeah, beautifully blessed. If you heard that, what I said before, you already have what you need, especially for a book. So, all right. What if you felt a conviction for starting, but you're taking action and you don't see results? I'm going to tell you, Rooted with Ree. I think that's how you say that. Sorry if I said your username wrong. I feel that even now with Eden and Empire. That doesn't make it true though. Okay. So if God placed that desire on your heart and gave you the conviction to start something, I would pray and say, Father, if this desire is not from you, please take it away. And if it doesn't, go with it, right? You know the difference. I feel like the fact that you're even asking this question means that you know. You just need to move towards it. Keep doing it scared. Keep going with it when you feel like you don't see the results. God is not on anybody else's timeline but his. Okay, so when we look at the story of Sarah, she started operating in fear because she had this timeline in her mind. So she tried to move past it and thought, like she tried to manage it on her own. And then she thought, well, maybe God didn't actually give me this, right? Maybe I misheard him, so I need to act in this way. And God said, do you not believe that I can do the impossible, essentially? When he came to her with the promise and said, I always had the appointed time. Don't measure your business on anybody else's timeline but God's. If I've heard this quote, I know it's not from scripture, but the same God that gave you the business idea will also give you the clients. There's so much going on underneath the surface, moving on behind the scenes that we don't even know. God is changing the heart postures of the people that he is calling you to. He is making circumstances happen. Like there's so much that God is moving that is for him to do. Our job is to show up faithfully day in and do out and do the work. And so if you're questioning it, to me, that's just an interference. Like I spoke about with the enemy, that's just a delayed tactic. Just do it. Okay. You said you want to start, but you're having trouble doing it. And now your job is offering free college. That might be a sign. And taking a business management degree, that could be relevant. I don't know what it is that you're wanting to potentially start, but I know that in business, I've taken programs from Goldman Sachs, right? From NYU Stern. I was a part of, I was selected for Goldman Sachs 100 Black Women in Business, and they flew us out for this 3-month program where we got to be taught from professors from NYU Stern. And I will tell you, most of the stuff I already knew. And that's not a brag. That's just to say that you don't need a business degree to be successful in it. I would go for something that's potentially adjacent that will help you in whatever it is that you're wanting to start a business for. But don't feel like you have to. I guess that's my thing. But if somebody is offering you free college, like you could totally go for it. So pray for that. Erica, you said for any physical business, look up business startup grants. Yes, there's a lot of grants. Work on your pitches too. Pitch your business. You have to be really clear on what your business is too. Okay, Brandon, you said you actually have a name for it. You're just scared and you don't know if you just let God lead and he will have and it will prosper. Look at Jeremiah 29:11, right? His plans are for us to prosper. God will make it happen. So, yay, I'm caught up. You were watching the Faithful Women of the Bible. Anwar, is that the one that is on Netflix? I can't remember who keeps telling me. Is it you? Because one of you guys keeps telling me to watch it and I forget about it. And I need to do that. You said, you love how God guides you to the right people. Exactly. He's gonna make it happen. We just have to stop operating in our own timeline and surrender that to God. Also, in terms of the timeline, here's one thing that I've been doing that maybe will help you guys too. Since our job is just to do, right? To take that next faithful step and to do the things day in and day out. Obviously, at a certain point, we could be doing the wrong things in business. There's that element of it. But you have to do it long enough to actually be able to measure whether it is successful or not. A lot of times we do something maybe like once or twice and we say like, oh, that's not working. You guys, when I started doing my lives, I've only been doing lives for like 2 months. And when I was doing my lives, there were like 6 people on. And I was only doing them for like half an hour. And I started going live longer. And now like my lives average anywhere from like, I don't know, sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's 100. Today it was a higher live. You just keep doing it. Like if I would have just done the 2 TikToks and said, or the TikToks earlier on when there's only 6 people, like then I wouldn't have gotten to this point. And it's probably one of my favorite things to do is my lives with you guys. So give yourself enough time. I would say measure anything for at least 60 to 90 days and then make a decision. I've also begun to tell myself, like, I'm only going to think about it this one time. Like I set aside time in the week to evaluate things and then I don't go back to it. A lot of it is the psychological piece of it. And we go back to things when we should just close them. We need to close those loops in our mind and just have peace with it. Address what needs to be addressed at an appointed time and let it go. Come back to it when it needs to. That's how you don't let your business run you. So there's so much. I could literally go on all day because I love coaching, right? That's what I do with the women in my community. But thank you guys for being on with me for 2.5 hours. You guys are the best. I go live Monday through Friday. And if you guys are interested in more of like stuff like this, there are a couple of times throughout the month where I will go live and do like the prayer or not the prayer calls, the Q&As. It is, I think I only go once a month. I share more in my Facebook community. So that one's free. You guys could go there, but there's a ton of resources if you guys want to connect with me. I go deep in the work that I do in Eden and Empire. And so you do not have to be at a certain point in your business to be part of that. And so you guys are welcome to it. I have all the details in my bio. But if you're new here and you guys didn't catch the part where I'm offering that 40 questions, or there's 44 questions, but quiet questions for big decisions. If you put that in the comments, I will send it to you today. You could either email me your email or DM me your email. You could comment here, say I'm new, I'm interested, whatever. Or you could go to the link in my bio and sign up that way. And that's my gift to you guys for being on this live. So I go live Monday through Friday. My Bible studies are, in scripture, but we had time today. And I wanted to take time to intentionally answer some of the questions you guys have in business because I don't often get time to do that. So thank you guys. If I end this live and you're interested, just make sure that you go. Beautifully Blessed, I did send it to you. I can't remember if you responded, but if you guys asked for it over the past couple days and you thought I didn't send it to you, just check your DMs. Sometimes it doesn't notify you guys, but I make sure to go through every single one of you in the comments after this live and send it to you directly. Especially if you guys have your accounts on private. I have to friend request you. And so sometimes it doesn't show. If that's the case, it'd probably be easier for you to DM me and I'll get it sent to you. So I am a brand and market strategist, and I have a community for faith-driven female entrepreneurs. So it's an online membership, and I guide you through how to run a business. What I like to say is you don't have to sacrifice the things that are sacred to you as you build something of significance. And so how do we integrate our business, our faith, and our families in a way that keeps us whole in the process? So it's the foundation of it is God. So, but yeah, you educate in life insurance business and you struggle to find clients or share on social media. I would say potentially you're not being bold enough in your ask if you're nervous to share. Or I don't know if you're saying maybe you struggle to find it even though you share on social media. You have to be really clear on who your audience is. Where are they hanging out? What are the things that they're struggling with? How do you show them that you have the answer to, okay, even though you share? I think that either they don't answer you or you're not answering their pain points enough. Like maybe it's too surface level. I'll look through on your social media and maybe give you some advice more specifically. But a lot of times I see that most people aren't being clear on what it is that they have to offer in a way that people can understand why they need it. It's either that or the platform that you're sharing on isn't where your audience is at. I think a lot of people think that you have to share on social media. And I'm going to be one to tell you, I'll go against the grain here from most high-end branding and marketing strategists. I also share the things that most don't, like the behind the scenes, because I'm not looking for you guys to hire me as a $30,000 coach, right? I'll work with you, but I'll give you the things that most people don't. Most branding and marketing strategists that work with high-end, like the affluent market, the high-end brands that they don't share. So I tend to share a lot of that too, but you have to go deep. You have to go beyond just the surface level. It's the things that are keeping them up at night, like life insurance. What are the thoughts that people tend to have? Why do people need life insurance, right? Sharing instances where life insurance came into play. Like, I don't know your ideal client, but just knowing them inside and out and being able to share those things on social media that's a big deal. But I will say you don't have to share on social media. A lot of people think, well, if I don't share on social media, then I can't have a successful business. Not everybody's clients are there, and we don't own social media. So it could be on tomorrow. Like, don't put all your eggs in that one basket. There's so much out there. And converting on social media, it takes a lot. You have to have somebody that's primed and ready to go. They also it takes on average anywhere from 10 to 12 separate touch points with you before somebody is ready to even buy. So there's a lot of stuff that happens on the buyer psychology level that is coming into play even before people are ready to buy. So being bold in your ask. That was me as a child. I was always afraid to ask my mom, hey mom, can I go hang out with my friends? I don't know why. So it trickled into how I am as an adult, and I had no reason. Yvonne, you said, where can you watch the replay? So if you go to the link in my bio, there is a link tree, and it sends you an email where you can get the past Bible studies through Genesis 6. I have to re-record everything prior to that, all the way to Genesis 1, because TikTok only saves it for 30 days. But everything is up to date. So you guys can go there. I have loved hanging out with you guys for as long as I have, but I'm going to go. Thank you guys for being on here. Thank you for the support every single day. I go live Monday through Friday. I encourage you guys to marinate on the word. If you missed it, definitely catch the replay. It'll be on there later today. And and I'm sending you prayers and love, and I will talk to you guys all tomorrow.